teaching artist with Meta Arts, which is a nonprofit art organization located in Twisp, Washington. And I'm here to teach you how to do these watercolor spring butterflies. And what you're going to need for this project is some watercolor paper, a pencil, watercolors, a brush, paper towel, some water, a permanent marker, crayons or oil pastels, and an eraser. So go ahead and pause the video, gather all these materials and get those in front of you. And once you have those ready, go ahead and press play and we'll get started. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to get started on is drawing the butterflies. And to draw the butterflies, we're going to use pencil first. So here's my blank sheet of watercolor paper. And to draw circles, it's really hard to draw a perfect circle in one go. And it's best to actually take your fingers and scooch back on your pencil a little bit. And instead of just moving your wrist like that, it's really limiting to just move your wrist. You can't really make that big of a circle. So you actually want to think about not moving your wrist and instead moving your whole arm. So I'm actually moving my whole arm from my shoulder. So you can even just practice that without putting your pencil down on the paper. So after you've practiced that just in the air, then you can lay your pencil down. And we're going to just do one circle right here, and you're going to press down lightly, okay, and you're going to go round and round and round and keep that arm. Again, we're not moving from the wrist, but moving from the whole arm. And we're just going to put a couple of circles next to each other. So here's 1 and then 2, okay, and 3 and 4. It's okay if they overlap a little bit, okay? So we're going to go up here now and do slightly smaller circles. So 1, 2, 3, and then 4. And then again down here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. If I was going too fast for you, feel free to back up the video and do it again, or you can just pause right here. And then once you have these at least circles placed in for your 3 butterflies, then you can press play again. I'm going to go ahead and keep going with the next step though. So the next step is taking what we've just done, and we're just going to outline the shape of our butterfly. So I'm going along now, pressing down a little harder with my pencil, okay? And I'm just outlining the outside edge of the butterfly. So here, and then here, here, okay? And then over here. So that's going to be the overall shape of my butterfly. But we got to make sure to insert the body. So to do that, it's just going to be this kind of stretched out rainbow or this arc. So I'm going to go connect from this point down to the bottom, from this point down to the bottom. Same thing on this butterfly, and then the same thing on this butterfly. Okay? All right. So now that we've done that in pencil, I know there's all these extra lines in our butterfly, and we'll get rid of those in just a second, but we're going to take the permanent marker and now just outline everything. So I'm going to outline this butterfly shape. Okay, and then remember to go slow, don't rush. Be mindful that this is also a permanent marker. Keep it away from clothes and from skin. Just keep it on the paper. Okay, so there's our second butterfly here. And then lastly, this third butterfly down here. And it's okay if you go outside the lines a little bit. No worries. Okay, so there is our third butterfly. And now at this point, make sure to put the cap back on your marker and put that off to the side. At this point, you can use your eraser and erase away any of those extra lines. You don't need those. Okay, and now we're going to have like a really nice butterfly shape afterwards. Okay, so I got my 3 butterflies. Now, before we continue on, you want to think about maybe some fun designs on the insides, maybe some shapes. So I'm just going to replicate the designs I did on the other butterflies. I kind of did this almost half circle shape here, and this one it can be maybe stripes, be circles. Think about different types of lines, different types of shapes. Maybe you want to look at some actual photographs of butterflies and then use that as an example. Okay, and this one I think, let's just do some stripes. Okay. Some straight lines here. Okay, and then sort of these like teardrop shapes on this one. And if you don't want to do this with permanent marker, if you want to make sure you really do a good job, then you can do this part in pencil and then go back on top with a permanent marker. Okay, so now I've got the designs for the butterflies. Before I fill them in, the next part I'm going to do is grab my oil pastel, and you may use either oil pastel or crayon, and think about the background, that color that you want. I'm going to use blue to keep it nice and bright, and this is going to take a little bit to do. When it comes to coloring this in with your crayon, or if you had an oil pastel, you want to go slow around the edges of the butterfly so you don't go inside those lines. In sort of these larger areas, if you're working with oil pastel, you can hold down the paper and then really press and rub, and that will end up covering a lot more of the paper. Okay. And then again, you might have to go on the tip of the pastel just to make sure you're going slow around the edges of the butterfly there. But again, this takes a little while, so feel free to follow along with me if you want, or you can go ahead and jump ahead in the video or pause the video and then get the background filled in and then press play again to continue on to the next step. So I'm just going to keep going here. Your arm might get a little tired from this. Requires quite a bit of effort. One thing too to keep from drawing on the inside of the butterfly is to outline it first and then fill in the space around it. Okay. For this part too, you might also want to make sure that you have something underneath your paper, because this will leave marks on whatever surface you're working on. If that does happen, it's pretty easy to clean up oil pastel just with your basic everyday cleaner. And also, turning your page helps too. So instead of reaching all the way across here, instead of reaching all across here, then I can just turn the page. That way it's a little easier for me to get to. Okay, here we are on the very last bit. Woo! Feel my arm muscles getting stronger from this. There we go. Okay, so pretty much the whole space has been filled in. You might want to go back and double check any of the little white, any white areas. Just fill those in a little bit more. Otherwise, that's pretty good. And the reason why we want to put the oil pastel down on the background, or if you're working with crayon, is that it creates a little wall around the butterflies, and it will keep the watercolor inside of the butterfly shapes. It's called oil pastel or crayon resist. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the technique of, oh, I forgot one thing. We got to do the butterfly bodies. Here, butterfly bodies, I'm just going to do quickly with brown oil pastel. Again, you may use brown crayon or, hey, whatever you want. Whatever color you want for the inside. Doesn't have to be brown. Doesn't have to be realistic. There we go. Okay, so now what we're going to do is the watercolor technique of wet on wet. So I'm going to get my brush, and then I'm going to lay down the water first on the butterfly wings. So I'm just going to do 1/2 at a time. And it might be a good idea just to do 2 colors. So for this one, I'm going to use some red and purple. So with the red, I'm just going to take the watercolor and just touch the wing there. Okay, and wash off my brush. And now get purple and do the same thing. I'm just going to touch on the inside, and it'll just kind of spread around. Now I'm just going to leave that be. I'm not going to spread it around with my brush, as it'll kind of ruin the cool effect of wet on wet there. So, okay, now I'm going to do the same thing. Get water on my brush and put that down on this wing, and then lightly tap that wing with red, and same thing with some purple. Okay, all right, I'm going to let that butterfly be and turn my page and do this other butterfly. So basically, you're going to do the same steps for each butterfly. Put water down first, and then go back and add 2 colors. No more than 2 colors, just because when you add more than 2 colors, what ends up happening is sometimes all those colors mix together and it turns to mud or brown. So keeping it to just 2 colors kind of keeps things simple and keeps it nice and colorful too. So I use green, and now I'm going to use some yellow. It's really fun the way it moves around. Okay, and now I'm going to do the other wing. It might be good to think about, what colors have you not used yet? So I know that I've used red and purple. So now I'm experimenting with yellow and green, just to see what happens with those 2 colors. Okay, so I've used red and purple, green and yellow. And I guess what I haven't used yet is orange and blue. Now this could be interesting. Sometimes when you mix orange and blue together, that ends up making brown. So let's see what happens here. So put orange down, wash off my brush, and see what happens when we put blue down. Should be okay, because we're not really mixing the colors like this on the paper. We're kind of letting them spread on their own. So that worked out pretty okay. So now I'm going to put down more water on this wing and do the very same thing. So put down the orange, wash off my brush, and then place down the blue. All right, and once you have your butterflies filled in, just put them off to the side and let them dry, and then they'll probably be dry in an hour or so, and you have some pretty butterflies to look at. All right, I hope you enjoyed making these colorful watercolor spring butterflies with me today, and I look forward to the next time we make some art together. Bye for now.